Well, you're just in time to join me for coffee because I've just got up. It's about midday and the weather in England is staying in bed weather, I'm afraid. Now, I did hear the door go, and so this came through the door, and it's always very difficult to get into this black stuff. We'll give it a go. Now I know what this is. Okay, it's a nice bit of wood. Certainly did a good job. I don't know what this extra bit is in here. I don't know what that is. I only ordered the handle, so there's something else in there. I don't know what that is. Right, well, as you can see, that's an absolutely perfect mast head. Absolutely perfect. And very strong, looks like beech. It's a bit heavy, but you get that on the big jobs. And so some of it can go at the top of the mast, and that gives me something to make this, put this wheel into, about there maybe, and so it doesn't split. You don't want to put too near the top. And yeah, and it's also tapered on the other end. That's interesting. And I'll have to, I'm not sure what I'm going to use that for. Maybe. Oh, it's got a little crack in it there. Little crack over there, not crack. It's got a little split in it there. See that? Wouldn't want that if you were using it for a spade handle. So it's good. It's good. This is one that needs to come to me because it's got that in it, and that will get cut out probably. Because that's going to be about where the masthead needs to be fairly long, the masthead, I think. It's also got to go inside the tube, and so that's probably where it needs to be cut off in the tube. And this needs to go at the bottom of the mast. Only a short piece needed at the bottom of the mast, just to finish the bottom of the mast off. And that is probably going to have to come off. Okay. So, we're not going to do this today because I've got a bad back this morning, and so I'm not going to start hacking away at that. I'm going to ripen that a little bit. So I'm going to put that to one side because today we're going to be doing Linux videos. We're going to be booting up the computer to the stick and getting into Gparted and having a look what partitions are there on the stick already, and then getting rid of them all and installing the stick on the Thinkpad T570. I'll be back in a minute. Right, now I had to rearrange my files here because I just realized that yesterday I actually got the cradle and the cable came for the hard disk drive SSD that needed to go in here. So I've got the SSD in here now. I didn't bother to video that. And so I had to rearrange because I normally make all my videos on the SSD, and I had been making them on without the DataVolume, the SSD wasn't in here, and I had to move all that stuff around. So that's all done. And then I realised, I watched the video back and I realised I hadn't opened this yet. I don't even know what this is. So it might be something useful for our boat. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I ordered something else on eBay. And what's the chance, what's the chance that it comes from the same people that I ordered the spade from? But it did. And what it is I've been meaning to do this for years. And this is some elastic to replace the elastic that's on my sail cover. And there's elastic that runs through the sail cover. It drives me mad every time I take the sail cover off. I've got to deal with this all broken elastic and not long enough and all that kind of thing. So I finally bit the bullet, and I've got some elastic. And so it will also prove useful for other things around the boat. Covers and things like that might even be good for my motorbike out there, you know, that we'll see. Alright, so that's what that was. An interesting coincidence that it just happened to come from from all the millions of people on eBay. It could be the same person who had the spade handle. Surprise. Right, let's get the other computer. Now, I had to pull the charger out of here when I brought this over, and it's just to remind me to tell you that when you do this, make sure that you're plugged into the power supply, because if your battery goes flat whilst you're doing anything serious like this, you're going to end up in trouble. Right. I know that this is a reasonably good battery, so I'm not too worried about it. But you might be. And also with these, you need to put your stick in, your USB port. It sticks out a bit, and you've got to be a bit careful with that thing sticking out like that. Right. Is it still switched on? You can't tell with this thing because, oh yes it is. It's actually still running Gparted, alright? So what I might do, just make sure the screen's fully bright. No, it wasn't. Okay, that's the brightness of the screen up because it's running on the battery. Yeah, that's the screen goes a bit dimmer. Maybe it's better with the screen dimmer. Might balance the exposure a little bit on the camera. I turned the camera volume down on the mic. It was distorting a bit. I hope it stopped distorting. I hope it's loud enough. Now I might have to come over here to do this. I'll move the tripod over here and you can see what I'm looking at. Okay, well we'll see if that's any good. I had to move the microphone, and I think the exposure is a bit too bright. Let's just turn that down a bit. I'll just check that, see what that's like. Okay, I've come in a bit closer so you can see that. And what we've got at the moment is we've got Gparted open. And if you remember, that was this. If you go down into the, oh, you can't see that, it's chopped off. Okay, so we've got Gparted open, and you'll see over here in the corner we're looking at the 238.47 gigabyte NVMe 0N1. And we've got a dev SDA which is 14.53 gigabytes. Now that must be the stick over there. Okay, so what's booted up, SDA has become the stick, and the other one's called this NVMe because it's an NVMe drive. It's not a otherwise it'd be called SDAB or something, okay? And so there's a little bit of confusion around these things, but this is what happens. And so we can see, if we click on SDA, we can see the partitions are on the stick now, okay? And you can see there's the ext4 boot partition of it's called JDate Studio Master. It's 14.4 gigabytes. Then there's a 49 megabyte ESP partition of type FAT32. That's where the UEFI boot stuff is, and then the rest of there's nothing there. So that's basically what we've got on the stick that that we put on, that we got from the P50, yeah. And if we have a look at on the NVMe, which is where we want to go, the target that's on this computer, you'll see that there's a remains of the installation that I put on some time ago, yeah. And here we've got a FAT32 EFI system, okay. It's a boot system. We've got an ext4 called root MX23 of 30 gigabytes, and there's a picture of it there. So these are pictures of it. That's it there. That's actually the home partition. The next one is home MX here, 34 gigabytes. See, they're both about the same size over here. And then we've got local volume, which is 172 gigabytes. Now local volume is something I made myself, okay. And so we can wipe it all out. I don't need anything on this drive, and I'll show you how to make local volume up again. But if I wanted to, I could just delete these partitions and leave local volume there, or I could just use these partitions and reinstall over the top of them using the stick. Now the simplest way is just to wipe it all out, and so without any further ado, I'm going to do that. I'm going to completely wipe this disk completely by putting a new partition table on it, yeah. And to do that, we need to go into here, device here, and we need to create partition table. Now we need to make sure we're on the right disk, because it's going to wipe out the whole thing, yeah, the whole lot. All those partitions are gone. All right, so let's do that. Create partition table. Now it says what type of partition table do you want. Now on a very old computer you'd use MS-DOS, but we want to be GPT over here like this, okay? It's very important, this, okay? GPT, all right, set that, and now apply that. And it's gone. Your hard disk is you just wiped out your entire hard disk drive, all right? So this is power, power to the people, okay? All right, now what I didn't tell you before was you needed to be booted. To do that, you needed to be booted to the stick, and I was booted to the stick, all right? I was booted to the stick, and you need to make sure that to boot to the stick, you need to make sure that your BIOS is set up properly. So I'm going to show you that now. So the stick is all wiped, all right? Now, let's leave it at that. Stick is all wiped. So you've got a blank stick, basically, with a new partition table on it. And I'm going to shut the system down, all right? I'm just going to shut it all down, shut it down. And I'll need to adjust the screen here. I'll need to adjust this. Well, I said that you're going to have a blank stick, but you're not supposed to have a blank stick. You're supposed to have a blank hard drive inside your new computer with Windows completely gone, completely wiped. If you made a mistake, you're going to have a blank stick, okay? So you're going to have to start again. Right, so we've got it's turned off at the moment. So what we have to do is we have to turn this thing on, and we have to get into the BIOS as quick as possible. So if we just turn it on, then there's a enter, okay, and then F1 Alright, now we're going into the setup. It tells you what key you have to press, but you have to be careful. With this computer, you've got multi-function keys here. You've got to make sure that the function lock is on to hit F1. Alright, now in the BIOS on this particular machine, every BIOS is different. But on ThinkPads they tend to look like this. And you'll see we've got the main, the config, the date time, the security, the startup and the restart. To move between them you use the arrow keys, okay? The arrow keys. And then to come down into it you use a down. No you don't. No, you can't do that. That's just giving you the information on the first screen. If you go to config screen you move the down arrow key. That takes you down through all of the options in it, okay? Now the place that the boot order is kept in the startup over here. So we go over to here and you'll see it says boot and network boot. Now you see that's network boot. We don't want to worry about network boot. When we're at boot there we have to hit enter and it takes us into the boot priority order here, and you'll see that when you do this you'll see everything will be up here. There'll be a whole list, thousands of things in here. What I've done is I've excluded the things that I'm not interested in from the boot order to simplify. Now if you come past 4 you'll see it moves into this bottom section here, which is everything that's excluded from the boot order, right? And to move things between, it tells you how to operate it here. To move the order, to change the order, you have to use the you used to use plus and minus to move it up and down, and then you need to do shift 1 disables the device. So to move it from that area to this area you need to, it tells you what to shift plus 1 is the key that you use, and to change the order it's plus and minus. So if you want to move that up, we want to move it down, plus and minus. It's a bit fiddly, okay? And so the boot order at the moment is the USB has to be at the top, okay? And I don't know why it's got MX Linux and the things. I don't know. It's a bit weird. That must be the something to do with the UEFI partition. Must have MX Linux marked. I don't know. And so I just leave these two in the order. But it probably doesn't need that in there. It probably just needs MX Linux. Okay. Right. And so that's all of that's the boot priority setup. That's the main thing. You've got that at the top so that you can, and you need to do this before you can wipe your Windows out, because Windows might be trying to stop you from doing all this. And to get into the BIOS like this, you might have to fiddle around for a bit before you get in there with Windows trying to suck you in. Yeah. And it's very important you have the USB as the first one there, so that when you put your stick in it boots up. Otherwise it will boot to whatever operating system's already on the computer. Alright, now if we hit escape, and there's many other options in here, okay? I'm not going to go into these, but you need to make sure everything's configured properly. And one good thing to do, not that. There you go. You need to look secure boot here. You want to change that in secure boot and make sure that's disabled, okay? Make sure escape to come back. Make sure secure boot's disabled. And anything else that's important? I can't think of anything else. There's a TPM. There you go. If you go security tip, make sure that your security tip TPM is disabled, okay? That's in security chip. Okay, now we can restart. So it says F10 save and exit. So if we go F10, save and exit, save configuration, yes, save it. And now it's going to boot up. It should boot to the stick now. There's nothing to boot on there, it's all wiped. Okay, now I'm just going to use the key because it's going to boot in automatically. When you come into MX Linux, it says a J Studio 8, but it'll say MX Linux on yours, alright. And so, to know that you're in the stick here, that you're booted to the stick, this will be blue like this, okay, with all these extra functions. When you actually, if you're booting from the hard drive, it'll come up with a grey, different screen here, so then you'll know that you're booting to the hard drive, alright. It's important that you know where you booted to because it both looks the same, it can both look the same. Right, so let's just boot without any further ado. Let's boot to J Studio 8. Let's finish my coffee. Okay, so there it is, it's come up. And as you can see, it looks just like my P50. It is my P50 running from the stick. Now it's running from the stick in RAM, so anything you do now, if you think that you're going to change something, it won't take effect. It'll all just be lost because it's running in memory. It's a RAM disk. The whole operating system installed as a RAM disk in memory. And anything you change just going to stay. It's going to be lost. Okay, so you'll see that it's even at this stage. It's even connected to my iPhone. It's connected to the internet. If I went in here to browse the internet now, it would be able to browse the internet and everything, just like my P50. It's exactly the same. Okay, but if I change any of the setup and shut down and reboot, it'll all be gone. The changes that I made will be gone. Okay, I'm going to stop now and just check that my video is working. Now, if you wanted to just run from the stick and make that your main operating system and you didn't want to install it to the hard drive, what you could do is you could actually go into Gparted now. I'll just go into Gparted over here, Gparted here. And what you could do is you could just simply create a partition on here, which is your NVME. Make sure you're on NVME, right? And we can go new partition here, and we could say that we wanted it's showing us what partition size, so let's say we make it 170 gigabytes, something like that. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this partition on the drive here and then I'm going to install the rest of the stuff from the stick. Okay, but I'm just showing you how you could actually just use it with the stick without actually booting from the hard drive at all. You could just use a system like this. Okay, so we give it a partition name, DataVolume. right? Type ext4, you want to leave it at that, and we'll label it DataVolume, right? And right, we're happy with all that, and we just add it. Okay. Now, it hasn't actually done the job yet. It only does it when you actually go into edit here and apply all operations. Okay, so if we apply it now, sure you want to do that, and now it's creating the primary partition 1 ext4 169 gigabytes, and it's done that. Okay, so now we've got a partition on there. All right, and if we close Gparted now and open up File Manager here, File Manager, right, and click on DataVolume here to mount it. We've now mounted DataVolume, okay, and we can save our files on there. You know, it could be everything that we own is on there, all right. And when we, okay, so I'll create a file. Okay, now it can't create anything, okay, because what's happened is it's owned by root, that, okay, and we've got to take ownership of that. Now, I've got a way of doing it. I'm just going to go into my little system here that I wrote, and I've got a good way of doing that here, which is I just go into if I change here, if I change that to DataVolume, and I think it's this one here. You see, I've got an option: change the ownership of the volume named above to mint. In short, you take full ownership of it. Okay, so click on that. About to run command sudo change owner -r mint to medium mint DataVolume. Okay, so that's going to take ownership. Now we'll see what the command is here. Okay, I'll just have to stop that. Okay, and it's done that. You can see that it executed this command here: sudo change owner -r, that means recursively to the whole disk. This is the name of the and group, I think, the name and the group of your user, okay, which in my case is just called mint, okay, but whatever your username is in here, and it's showing you it's media mint DataVolume, okay. That's where the DataVolume is in your file system. Okay. Now that's the format of the command, and it's in that manual. It's in the manual. If you get this, you can study that and find out how to do it. But you need to take ownership, and you need to use the terminal to actually do that. Okay. I've just made this little helper here for me, because I don't want to remember how to do it all the time. Now, if we go into DataVolume here, and now right mouse click, you can see now we can actually create a new folder, create a new document. So I create a new folder here, and say Adam or whatever, and then I can put a new file on it, create a new document, empty document. I made this. Okay. All right. So now we've got something in DataVolume. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this down here. Close this. Close this. All right. Now I'm going to create a file here. I'm going to create a document here. Here you see empty file here. I lost this. Okay. All right. There's a file here called I lost this. All right. Now let's go and reboot. Restart. You sure you want to restart? Restart. Booting from the stick. MX Linux is about the fastest to boot up of any Linux operating system that I've had. Okay, now you'll see that file that we created on the desktop is gone. It's just not there anymore, right? Because it was a RAM disk. It was running in RAM. Everything was running in RAM, and then it's gone from the RAM. Okay. Now, if we go into File Manager here, or Nemo, whatever you want to call it, and we have a look at DataVolume here, Mount DataVolume, and you can see we've got Adam here, and we've got I made this. Right, so you could just run like that. You just run from the stick and so on. But when you and that's how I suggest that you start off using Linux. Run from the stick, just do it that way. And when you're ready, you can install it. All right. Now I'm going to take 5, make sure that's all working, warm my coffee up, and I'll be back. Well, I don't know if you can see me there, you should be able to. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you was, if you go and install software now onto the stick, we're running from the stick now, we could go and install software and do all that stuff. Yet when we reboot, it's all going to be gone, right? It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange that, but that's what happens. And also, if some virus comes along or some bad actor comes along and you know manages to get something corrupted, put some bad stuff on your stick, on your operating system, they think they've done it, but they haven't, because it's actually just running RAM. So it's gone. As soon as you reboot, it's gone. So that's a great thing about having the stick. What's not so great about it, that's from running from the stick, what's not so great about it is that you lose anything that you install. All right, so it's a two-edged sword, really. So what you can do is you can install it to the hard drive, right, and then you can go and customize it and install all the extra stuff that you want. I don't need to do that because everything anybody ever wanted is actually installed on Jade Studio 8. It's got everything installed that you mostly need. So I don't really, I can run it from the stick, it's not a problem. I don't need to add anything extra. But when you install MX Linux, you'll need to add a whole lot of stuff that you want. Yeah. And so if you do that on the hard drive, and then you've got to a point where you're running with it, you don't need to install anymore, you're happy with everything, okay. What you can do is you can make a stick of everything as it is at that point in time, just like I did on the P50. That's what this stick is here. And then you can just boot to the stick, and you can run the very secure environment that way. If you're bothered about something coming down the line and messing you up, or if you don't like the way Firefox and it works in collaboration with Google and all this kind of stuff, and ends up somehow messing up your ad blocker, whenever you boot to the stick, it's all back to what it was before Google messed it up. Or YouTube, it's Google, same thing. Yeah. So there are pros and cons running in a live environment, and I don't bother anymore to run in a live environment because I understand what's going on. I can sort myself out from time to time and wipe out what they've done to me in Mozilla and just carry on. So there you are, really. Now what we haven't done yet is installed it, and you can see here there's a little thing on the desktop which you can't see because it's too small, called installer. So what I'll do is we're going to install it now into that blank area on the hard drive that we left at the front of the hard drive. We've got DataVolume on it. We're not going to wipe DataVolume. We'll leave DataVolume there, and we're going to install the operating system in the rest of the hard drive that's there. Okay. Right, let's do that. Just checking if it's recording. Okay, so yeah, so is the installer on the desktop? Yeah, install Linux. Let's double click on that. Right, now it's checking the installation media. We don't want to do that, so we press escape and right, so here we are, and it's a GB keyboard, which this is a GB keyboard. You want to change the keyboard setting if it's a different keyboard that you're using. Okay, let's go next. Right, so there's a regular install using the entire disk, or customize the disk layout. If you didn't have DataVolume on there, you could just do a regular install using the entire disk, and that would be fine. Then you have to make DataVolume again. To make DataVolume, then you'd have to shrink what it made, and so on. Let's customize the disk layout. Okay, so it's showing DataVolume. Here you go. ZXT4, and it's showing here. So this is not the easiest way to do it. We'll make DataVolume again. We can make DataVolume again. Doesn't matter. Okay, so let's just do this. Let's do a regular install using the entire disk. All right, and let's do that. Yeah, so it says format and use the entire disk. Do we want to do that? Yeah, let's do start that. Okay, now it's doing it. All right, so you can see this is the easiest way. This is the way I did it in the beginning. It's always the way I do it. So I just wipe it out, start again, let it create its partitions, and so on, and then we can create our DataVolume again. I'll show you how we do that after it's already made everything, used the entire disk. I haven't had any joy with the Samba server for MS networking, but I just let it do that. Okay. Now in the computer name here, I normally call mine by the name of the computer. If I've only got one in the house, T570, that's good enough. Leave all that the same. Now you can just go through here. You can go back and forward. It's just going to be going. It'll pick up your information when it needs it. Okay. So it's the United Kingdom, British English, time zone, London. I like it to say like that. And let's go next. Okay, so it's just copying the new system now into the hard drive, and we can go back and change any of these things if we want to. Eventually it will pick up that information that we put on there. Giving you a few tips to read while you've got time on your hands waiting for it to finish. It's quite fast. It doesn't take very long to install, especially on we've got USB 3, we've got NVME. It's pretty quick here. It's going to be a bit slower on a conventional hard drive. It's running in memory at the moment and everything. You can see how much memory it's used. It's used 2 gigabytes of 8. It says it's got 8 gigabytes here. Oh yeah, there's only 8 gigabytes in this machine. So it's used 2 gigabytes. It's all it's using is 2 gigabytes. And the processor isn't even warmed up. Yeah. So it's disk bound. It's going as fast as it can based on the speed of the of the disk subsystem. And that memory is installing itself into RAM and everything, so it hasn't used much memory to do that. It's quite remarkable actually. It's very frugal. %91. Creating a swap file, you don't have to worry about swap partitions anymore. It just creates a swap file. Installing grub so that you can boot. That's what it uses to boot up its system. Updating init ramfs. That's what it uses to load itself into memory. It's always a bit long-winded, the init ramfs work. Anything you do on init ramfs takes time. That's the initial file system, what it is, that it starts up with. Every computer is different, so it's making one specially for this T570 hardware, whatever's on here. There's the NVIDIA on here, there's no NVIDIA on there, it's got to sort all that out. Its processors are more occupied during this point because it's using squashfs, which is make squashfs it's using, and this is a fairly intensive process of squashing something down so it fits into the very smallest amount of RAM. I'm letting it go. I could stop it and skip parts of this. I think it's good that you see how long this takes, and it's worth watching. And if you're new to all this, you need to ripen this. Yeah, you need time. This video doesn't need to go so fast. And this is why I feel that it put all this yachting stuff at the beginning of the video, so that we haven't got that. At this point we've got rid of everybody who hasn't got enough time on their hands, who can't recognize the good stuff from the bad stuff, and will probably just ruin their hard drive if they tried any of this stuff. And so you people at this point watching the video are the cream of the crop, really. Thanks for watching. Yeah, and it's for you that I make the videos. Yeah, it's important, serious information. Everybody needs to know what I'm telling you, and I'm telling you the bare minimum of stuff that you need to get up and going with Linux. I'm not telling you anything that you don't need. You're going to need to learn more than that. Yet, from what I'm telling you, you should be able to get up and going with Linux a lot easier than you can get up and going with Windows. And the good thing is, it doesn't change this. Yeah, this procedure in MX Linux has been similar, almost the same for years and years and years. And so once you learn MX Linux like this, you've got it forever. Okay. All right. So it's finished installing. It says automatically reboot the system when you install it. No, I'm not going to do that because I want to remove the stick. So we'll finish this. Finish here. All right. Now, The Linux disk subsystem is very clever. It may still be writing to the disk, as we say that, finishing it off even though it's finished here. And if we restart or shut down the system, it will pause long enough to make sure that it's all saved and everything. So let's just shut it down. Shut down. We just make sure it boots, yeah? Okay, it's off now. So let's take out the USB stick, and now it should boot to whatever's on the hard drive. You'll see it's come up with a different screen now, so we know it's trying to boot from the hard drive now. Okay, so let's carry on. Now it's booting from the NVMe, which might be could be faster than a USB stick. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Now, you want to watch out buying these things. There are many fake SanDisks which you can get caught with. Make sure that you buy these from a reputable dealer who sells loads and loads of SanDisks. That was fast. That was faster on the NVMe. So that's the right thing to have booting from. Okay. You don't boot much. I don't boot much in Linux. I leave it running. I just shut the screen. So the speed of the boot isn't that important. All right. So as you can see, it looks exactly the same. It even got the installer on it. So you can't really tell the difference between whether you're booted to the stick or whether you're not booted to the stick. And so, you know, you've got to keep your wits about you there. Now let's have a look and see. Let's go into Gparted and see what it's done. Okay. And you'll see that it's got a FAT32 boot EFI. It's got an EFI system, 256 megabytes, and it's got an ext4. That's a FAT32 partition. It's got an ext34, a root partition. That's the root file system. Root is that's just a slash in Linux. A slash like that is root. That's 238. Now what we want to do is to put a DataVolume on there. Okay, we want to shrink that. But we don't want to shrink. We're actually booted up to it now. We don't want to shrink it while we're booted up to it. We want to shrink it. To shrink it, we want to be booted up to this thing here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to close Gparted, right, and we're going to reboot to the stick. So I'm going to put the stick in. Put the stick in, and I'm going to restart. Now because my boot priority is set the way it is, it's going to now boot to the stick. Okay, so we tested it, we now boot, we know we can boot to the hard disk drive here. Need to test that first. Now I need to boot into the stick because to work on the partition here, the hard drive is in here, we want to be booted to another place. Okay, you can see, now this is wrong, it hasn't booted to the stick. It hasn't booted to the stick. Alright, it's very important this, alright, that you spot that, okay, and this is why it's happening, because there's some issue here. It's actually not booting to the stick, it's booting to the hard drive on here. I just spotted that because of the color of the boot screen that it came up with. So I'm not going to reboot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down. I'm going to shut down because I feel it's probably that caused that issue. So let's shut down. I'm trying this because I'm not sure myself, yeah. With this NVMe and all this stuff, I don't know. Okay, so now normally, so you shut down now. Now you put the stick in, okay. Now we boot up. It should pick up the stick. If it doesn't, I'm just going to turn it straight off if it hits out of the screen. It hasn't. It hasn't. Okay, I'm just going to shut it off. Alright. It hasn't done that. Right, let's go into the BIOS and have a look why that is. Okay, let's go and have a look at the startup sequence. What's happened here? The boot priority order is MX Linux. At the top, you see we got the order wrong. I don't know how I did that. Alright, so I must have made a mistake myself. I was probably just showing you how to use the plus and the minuses. So the USB H, that needs to be at the front. Okay, if MX Linux is there, it's going to boot from the main hard drive. Okay, save settings and exit. You've always got to be able to diagnose issues with computers, things like that. They're going to happen to you, yeah. Oh, no, turn it off. We want to be booted to the stick. There's it. There it is. You can see why it's important to know where you are. Right, the blue screen, that's a stick. Let's go. Right, you're onto it. You're onto it. It's a very great video. This, you know, it's nature making this video, and I'm just following along like you are. And it's done it in a great way because you're really learning what you need to learn to deal with this. In a very short amount of time, you're seeing all this before you're even having to do it yourself. You get lost in the, once you start to do it yourself, you get lost in the installation. Right, now we're booted to the stick. We booted to the stick. And so what do we do next? We want to create our data volume, all right? And so let's go into Gparted. Okay, now I made a little mistake here. Somehow I pressed the wrong button and it came up with this MX Linux Users Manual. And you can see that on the desktop there's actually a user manual. And it's a very good manual too. And you can read all this, study it all. It's very important to look at this stuff, and they've made a good job of this. So that was on the desktop here somewhere. No, is it frequently asked questions? No, there's also frequently asked questions here. I don't know how I got the user manual to come up. I can't see it on there. Maybe it was in here. If you go in here, you go, MX User Manual is in there. You just go and type in part of it. So I don't know how it came up by itself. I don't know how it came up. But there you go, you need that. Alright, so you can see that we've got Make sure you're looking at the right place. It's the NVMe and not the SDA here, the 250 gigabyte thing rather than the 16 gigabyte thing. Oh, and if you buy these things, the higher 64 gigabytes and all that sort of stuff, this is where you run into this fake ones. Yeah, that's why I only buy 16 gigabyte ones. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to make enough space now on this partition, on the disk, sorry, not the partition. We want to shrink the partition, okay, to a smaller size so that we can have some space. So if we go in here, we go partition, resize or move, then what we can do, this little window comes up here, and we just drag this here to what size we want. Alright. And if we make it about 60's alright. Yeah, 60's okay. Maybe a bit less. Just use your intuition, maybe a bit less. Nature tells us how much for that. About there, nature says. Okay, alright, let's resize it. And it hasn't done it yet, but let's go and do it. Apply all operations. Let's apply that. Okay, and now it's resizing the partition. Now it says here that it can take a long time. It may take a long time depending on whatever's happening, and it can take a long time. And so maybe I should just top up my cup of tea while I'm making that, and I'll pause the video. Now if you had two drives in your machine, an NVMe and maybe an SD, what you could do is you could just put this partition on another drive, then you wouldn't have to shrink this partition, just use the whole partition for it. But you probably would shrink it and create extra partitions for other stuff like backups and things like that. And so it looks like it's nearly done, but it might not have done. I'm just going to grab my coffee. How are we doing? Is it finished yet? Nah, it's still going. Takes a while, yeah. It's something you only do occasionally when you set up a new system. So let's just pause this. Okay, it says all operations successfully completed. Alright. Alright. So now what we want to do is we want to create whatever partitions we want on here. So I'm going to go new here, and I'm going to create I'm going to call it local volume. In my case, I want the partition to be called local volume. I normally call it, in your case, I call it DataVolume, or local volume's alright. Whatever you want to call it, really. Okay, now we're going to add that. Add that. And remember, it hasn't done that until we go and do it. So it's 186 gigabytes. You've got on the primary on the root partition, it's going to put home on there as well. You can have home on a separate partition, or you can have it all together. Doesn't really matter. It's simpler on the head if you got it, or if you only got two partitions like that, I suppose. Okay, so let's go and apply all operations. Okay, it's done that. Right, let's close this down now, and let's go and have a look, see if we've got a local volume on here. No, we won't. We want to reboot. We're booted to, remember we're booted to the stick. So let's shut down, take the stick out, and reboot to our NVMe drive. And see if we've achieved our result, which is to have two partitions one for the operating system, one for local volume. Right. Here we go. First boot of our brand new system. Shows us we're booting from the system. The colour. Going like a rocket. Pretty good system. See that little mark there? That's all that's wrong with this computer. I got this for about 50 or 60 quid. I think the cheapest one on eBay at the moment is about 150. So you can pick up some bargains if you know, look around. Right, there we are. There's our Jade 8 Studio running from the NVMe, all running on the battery. Everything we've done is being done on the battery, and this is the battery that came with this thing, so it's got a good battery in it. It's got 5 hours 45 minutes remaining, so it thinks. And we're using 1.7 gigabytes, so it's 8 gigabytes, so you don't need 16 gigs of RAM. And let's just have a look at, go into our file manager here. We should see a local volume. There's a local volume. Yeah. Right, so now we won't be able to put anything on here because we don't own it. We created it, we haven't owned it yet, alright? This is a mistake for the beginner. I forget myself, yeah. As soon as I see that grayed out there, I think, oh, need to own it, yeah. Okay, so for me to own it, I use my little gadget here. I put in here, this one's called local volume. Local volume is the name, and let's own it. It's doing this work for me. Okay. Okay. Put that in my log. Close this. Should have owned it. We haven't owned it. We haven't owned it. I'll just try it again, but I think I know why that hasn't worked. I'll just try it again. I'll just check the spelling. Local. It's got some funny thing on it at the end. Let's just have a look at this. Maybe. Yeah, look, it's got a funny extra character on it here. This is exclamation mark, some crazy marker. I want to get rid of that. So I've made a mistake labeling my disk. So we could probably change that without rebooting. See, it's labelled. I labelled it. I made a mistake when I labelled it. See, we want to unmount it. And as long as it's unmount, we can't do anything. Ooh, that's interesting. We can't mount it either. What's going on here? Let's have a look in here. Local volume. I'm surprised we can't change the name of this. I'll just check this as we're going. If we Okay, now I need to be rebooted to the stick to do any work on those partitions, and I noticed some other issues with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to reboot to the stick, shut it down, I better make sure that my video is all working too before I carry on. Right. When we come back, we'll be all booted to the stick. Right, well, I'm sorry about the focus on the last one, but the mistakes are the best part, because you don't want to be getting bogged down with what it says, all the writing on the screen and that. It's good that it's slightly out of focus so you can concentrate on what I'm saying and the big overview picture. But now we're in the detail. Now we've got it in good close-up focus into Gparted, because what we're going to do is, okay, we're on the NVMe 01 here, and I want to show you something. You see, we made local volume here, and it's got a funny exclamation mark at the end of it. That was the mistake we made. But the mistakes are the best part, because I need to show you that this says local volume here and local volume here, but it doesn't say the same thing with these ones. It says primary and primary, and that's a problem. It can be a problem when we're working with these things. So first of all, I'm going to change these. So you see this primary where it says primary. If you right mouse click on that and say name partition, it hasn't been named, and so we want to call that root. Same, root MX23. Okay, right, and we can rename this one to name partition. We'll call that same as what it has. We just call it EFI. Well, my battery ran out, so I'm going to have to do a bit of that again. Let's get into Gparted. We're booted. We booted to the floppy disk drive, to the floppy disk drive, to the USB stick. Shows how old I am. Let's pause this. Okay, we're in Gparted. And you'll see that I've actually changed all the names here, and this one here also I've changed. I want to show you how I did that. And so if we select that partition there and we go label file system, and then we can change the label there, and then click OK, and then we want to go apply all operations. Alright, so as you can see, we're all running happily there. So now I'm going to have to reboot back to the hard drive on here, and so we're going to shut down. Alright, that's done it. Take out the USB stick, boot to the main drive. Now it should come up with that grey screen now to show that it's actually booted to that. There's our grey screen, and it comes up a lot faster when it hasn't got to deal with the USB stick. That's very fast. That's noticeably faster than the SSD and NVMe. Okay, you'll notice it doesn't need any password. I've just got it set up that way. So if I die, I don't need to be on Facebook for somebody to, some AI to carry on my behalf when I die. Okay, so let's go into File Manager, and we should see that we've got a local volume, but we probably can't use it yet because we haven't actually taken ownership. You see, it's got a big cross on it there, and no create new folder doesn't work. And so what we want to do is we take ownership of that, and I'll just use a little utility to do that. Okay, and you'll have to use the terminal. Just say terminal, and you'll get it, it'll come up. Right, so I wanted to put in here, I put local volume, and then I click on there, and you'll see it's done it. Oh, we need the password, and it should have done it. And there's a command there: sudo change o and -r your user code, medium mint, local volume, or whatever it's called in your system. Okay. Right. Let's finish that. Now let's have a look. Let's go into File Manager, click on local volume. I hate this touchpad. You can see now we can create folder, okay? And whoops, what happened there? Rename it. Oh. Well, that's something you can do quite easily. I'll show you that. If you go right mouse click in here and go open as terminal, right? Then it opens up with it already set to medium in local volume, untitled folder. You set it in there. So, and now you're operating on that particular place in your file system. Okay, I just want to rename this. The problem with this, okay, you can do whatever you like now. You've got somewhere to save all your own stuff, and if you get into trouble with your operating system, then you haven't got into trouble with your local volume. Okay, you can move it around easy, so on and so forth. But you do need to own it. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll just shut this down, and this video is long enough. So yeah, let's talk to each other face to face. Well, I hope there's not so much noise on the background, because there's been I've had the fan running in the kitchen because we've got a chicken in the oven. They were free-range birds. They were throwing them out in the supermarket. There's about 6 of them in there, all half price, and so I don't often eat chicken, but rather than save them throwing it out, I bought one of them and it's in the oven. So it's a rare occasion for me to have a chicken. Last time I had a chicken was at Christmas. Okay, well, if you got this far, then you're a die-hard Linux enthusiast. And I think I've shown you enough to get going on it. MX Linux is far easier than anything else. Probably Linux Mint is the easiest to install, just to install. But then after you've done it, have to live with all that. Yeah. I've actually, to back all my data volume up, I've got other USB drives. I've got large 8 terabyte drives here, and I've got a utility that I wrote myself, that uses rsync to synchronize my files onto a duplicate copy on my large hard drives. And as I say, I've made a utility for me to do it without having to think about what the syntax is for rsync and all that. So I'm not an expert in Unix or Linux by any means, because I wasn't brought up with it. I was brought up with other stuff, and so I was a big Windows user, so I don't like to use the terminal if I can help it. So I create shell files and I create utilities. I write in Python to be able to do the sort of things that I might need to do regularly. So I don't really build up any kind of ability on the terminal much. If I need to use the terminal window, then I refer to my notes or Google it, whatever. So we have our computer. This also, I charge this up too in case its battery got a bit flat. What's it running at now? 96%. 51 hours remaining, it says. I don't know about that. Yeah, so a nice little computer running Linux, okay. If we want, it's already connected to my phone, so all I've got to do is click on Firefox, and it'll open Firefox. Take me to the same place it would take me on my P50. It's the exact copy of my P50. If anything went wrong with my P50, here it is. Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't just plug into the docking station. It should just plug into the docking station. It's the same era, but you know the docking stations, they change all the time. Okay, if you want to go and run YouTube, you're going into YouTube. It hasn't asked me for anything because it thinks I'm already installed. It thinks I'm already there. I'm already logged in, if you like, to Google and all that. So it doesn't question me. If we go on to 2Vintage, 2Vintage is an excellent channel for all you people who want to know how to fix your own vehicles, cars, motorbikes and things like that. He's got a great video this morning. I've just been watching it while I've been waiting for my thing to charge up, and he's fixing up eight-wheel drive boat thing. It's a thing that goes on water, and he's going to use it for ice fishing. Yeah. I can't hear any sound. There's no sound, okay? I'll take 5 because I may need to tell you something. Well, it's pretty late now, we've lost the light. And so there's many things to learn about Linux desktop. I don't need to start teaching you that. Maybe I'll go over some of that in another video. At the bottom right, there's some icons in the toolbar at the bottom right. There's some icons to do with sound and whether you mute it or not mute it, the volume levels and the audio mixer. And there's a networking thing to connect to your network. You know, you need to go into all that stuff. And if you install just normal MX Linux, you won't get your toolbars like mine. You'll have your toolbars on the side and things will be in different places. So I can't really help you there. You just have to work through that yourself. If you've got any questions, just pass a comment. I'll reply to you, no problem. As long as there aren't thousands of comments, it'll be fine, yeah. And at the moment, there's not many comments. I don't mind getting a few comments and replying to you. Okay, well, it's a start to get Linux started. Hopefully this year, 2026, is the year of Linux desktop. But then every year we say that. 10 years ago was the year of the Linux desktop for me. Perhaps it's the year of the Linux desktop for you. I hope so. It's way, way, way beyond time for it. If you all wait too long and don't jump in, they'll just ban it. Yeah. If you all jump in and you're all using it, they can't ban it. You know, otherwise they get a revolution on their hands. Okay, well, thanks for watching.